friends. I'm Jacque Howard, creator and host of the Trenton 365 show. The whole impetus behind the Trenton 365 idea is to build a better community for everyone. And to do that, we need to get as much information as possible from as many different people as possible so that we can collectively build and develop this community that we want. To do that, we need to recognize the population that is here in Trenton and to bring them to the table and to come up with ways of discussing and talking about how we can collectively build this better community that we're all working towards. So today I'm hosting a roundtable of sorts discussion with several friends around the topic of immigration. So please, ladies first, introduce yourself and from what country you have migrated to the United States.
My name is Adebisi Shofu, and my origin is Nigeria, but I grew up in England.
Hi, my name is Lorna Abdullah. I am originally from Jamaica, beautiful island.
My name is Pierre Calderon, and I am from Costa Rica.
And my name is Marino Pozo, and originally I'm from Colombia, South America.
Great. So thank you all and welcome. So one of the main things that I'd like to ask folks who are in the United States, and particularly in New Jersey and Trenton, why did you come to the United States of all countries? Anyone can jump right in.
I can jump in. I came to I originally did not come to the United States. I moved to Canada. And when you live in a small island and you have different relatives and families and they're all like, moving to England and Canada and the United States for some reason seemed like that was the place to be. So they get here and they would come back to visit and they give you like these wonderful stories and your eyes are like open. It's like, wow, I need to be there. But as a young student, that was not it for me. I just knew that Jamaica was a small place. And I've always wanted to experience another country. It could have been anywhere else. But of course, the safe place was where families were. So, I had families in Canada, and I moved to Canada and spent about 5 years there. And of course, I had tons of relatives living in New Jersey. And I've never asked them why New Jersey. And it could have been the same thing. They had friends or relatives living in New Jersey. And of course, when they came here, the thing was to help others. If you're coming here, you're a new immigrant, then a friend would take you in and help you until you get a job. And then you move on and you do the same thing for the next person. So that's really how it started. And moving from Canada to here was because I had a lot of older relatives living here. And I had a young brother living in Canada, and the older relatives here thought that was not the best place for me to be. So, of course, they encouraged me to come to New Jersey. And that's why I'm in New Jersey.
Okay. Anyone else?
My situation was actually pretty similar to that. Well, I was kind of young, I was about 3 when I was brought over by my parents. But it's pretty much the same situation that they look at the United States as like it's that far off land where you can do anything. There's all of this freedom and so many opportunities, and our family's been in Costa Rica since I can't really trace it back, but a while. And I guess my parents just decided, all right, well, we want our kids to have all the opportunities they can. So I mean, even though they're taking I'm pretty sure it's planned, but they took out a visiting visa, and that visa expired probably over 15 years ago. And we've been here ever since, but it's pretty much pretty similar situation where we have some cousins or aunts or uncles that live in New Jersey. So we come here, even though, it's quite expensive. But, like, the first house I lived in, it was, like, we shared a room with, like, a bunch of other people. And it was one house, but every room had quite a few people. And just over the years, they all, got decent enough jobs to move out of the house until we were the last family there, and it was, our home. But yeah, like at one point we were in a room with like a few other families, and it was like pretty small room, and then people started leaving, and then it was just my family in one big, not a big room, but it was just our family in this one room. I slept on the floor, my sister on, I think she was on the floor too, and then my mom got the bed, and I think she was the only one on the bed, or sometimes we switched places, but, you know, until like everyone started moving out, and then it just became our home, and we had, you know, my parents had decent enough jobs, and, you know, we've had other relatives come in the same situation now that we're all, you know, pretty set. We try to help them as much as we can, and it's just a cycle.
Marino?
Yeah, my story is a little bit different. I never asked or I never thought to be here. But, you know, especially in my country, Colombia, it's been a lot of, you know, history of violence, drugs, and all those sort of things. And I was in some way involved in that particular violence. You know, at one point I was a teacher in 2 different colleges. And one night I was, you know, coming back to my house, and couple guys in motorcycles, they just stopped me and they tried to rob me, and they were cops. They were, you know, in civilian clothes, and at that point they got caught, you know, we have to prosecute it, and it was not just 2 guys, it was a whole band. And what, you know, the prosecutors say to me, it's you better move out of the city with your family. We better sell everything that you have, and, you know, just reborn yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna be targeted very easy. They know where you are, where your family is at this point, and you know, it was really, you know, hard time for us. So at one point, the only choice that we have it was to come here. And when we came, it was 1999, and we came to New York, me, my wife, and my 2 daughters. And as pretty much as your situation, we were living in a small room, the 4 of us, and I was, you know, changing my suit, my tie, you know, for, you know, just construction clothing. And I remember, you know, by the change of the millennial, I was working in Brooklyn changing toilets with one contractor. And when I came home like 8:30 p.m., they said, we were waiting for you to go Times Square. And I was tired. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I said, okay, just wait for me. I washed myself off, and we went to Times Square to have some good time, you know. And that was probably the weirdest experience that I have had in my life. And after that, I start picking up myself and say, look, we never asked for this, but we have to move forward. And at that point, I start, you know, learning the language, because when you're 35 years old and you have no idea how to speak a new language, that's the first challenge that you have. That's the first barrier. In my case, as an immigrant, without knowing the system, without knowing the language, having to feed a family of 4, have to pay rent, you know, utilities and everything else. It was crazy time. I never thought it would be that hard. I don't like to see back those days, because I don't know how me and my wife have the courage to keep going. Just bringing them to the school, my daughters, and they say, you wanted to be on a regular or in English classes? And we say, English, obviously. I mean, we don't want it to just, you know, be probably be put aside or just be bullied because they not speaking well the language. And the same thing happened for me, because I couldn't afford to pay in a school for my English classes, because if I pay the school, I don't have money to pay for the food or the rent. So I was catching up, you know, little by little. Thank God, you know, it was some Korean guy in Manhattan. He gave me a good job. We started building from there, but it was so expensive living in New York that at one point I have some friends working in some dealers in New Jersey, and they in East Brunswick actually, and I started, you know, washing vehicles and doing those things in East Brunswick. But the cheapest living place in the whole New Jersey was Trenton, so I have to commute every single day from here to there. that's why probably we came to New Jersey and I came to Trenton. I was changing, the beautiful New York for the dark Trenton. And I started loving this city and looking for the opportunities to serve the community. That's pretty much, roughly my story here.
Fantastic. And Marino, we're going to drill down on that a bit later, talking about the assimilation into the community, and then as Bayron and Lorna already mentioned, about how it's more of a community. You're helping others who are in the same situation. You're trying to progress and move on. But even as you moved on, your family's moved on, there was still this sense of community and this desire to help someone else or be there for someone else and to share your experiences. So we're going to drill down on that a bit later on.
Sure.
So BC, your turn.
My experience is a little different. After I graduated from secondary school, because we went back, my parents took us back there to get our secondary education, which is all the way
so
to...
I want to stop you for 1 second and start from you were living in England, and then your family took you back
to Nigeria.
Okay.
Right, because they wanted us to experience the country. So I did my secondary school year, which is it's closer to high school, but a little different. And so after I graduated, my father's friend, an American, said, "Why don't you send your children here to go to college? I'll get them schools. You don't have to worry about that." So next thing I know, I got a letter of I filled out some forms anyway, but I got a letter of acceptance to go to Northwood University. And I landed in the Midwest, in a small town in Indiana, West Baden. And that's where the historic building of the school was. And so I finished up there, went to Midland, Michigan, where is the headquarters of Northwood University, and continued there. And after I graduated, I left Northwood and went to Eastern Michigan University because my father wanted me to keep an eye on my younger brother there. So I transferred to Eastern, finished up there, went home, got married. And then, because I had no intention of staying here, that was never a thought for me at that time. And then I got married, and my now ex-husband got a job from Standard Oil, and we had to move back here. And moving back here, I've lived I started out in Indiana, I started out in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Maryland, and then I wound up here. So I wound up here, and I guess I decided to stay because I had moved my children so much. And I said, you know what, we're staying in one place, you'll graduate, you'll have friends, and we're not moving anymore. That's why I stayed here. Because left to me, 5 years later, I would have moved off to another state. And I did a lot of traveling. See, I love traveling. And so I've traveled all over, and I enjoy it so much. I guess I can't, but now I'm finally here in one place since 1992. I've been in New Jersey.